Good morning, good afternoon, good evening, everyone, wherever you are in the whole world. And today is June 20, 2026. Tomorrow is Father's Day. So before we start our study, we always read the ikapitong makadiwang pagtuturo sa panalangin ni Nicodemo, isang pakikiugnayan sa sarili nilikha ng huling henok. Sa pamagitan ng kalakasan ng aking kamalayan, sa aking katalinuhan at sa aking pangangatwiran, ginagamit ko ng buong lakas ang aking kaalaman, kapantasan, sa aking kakayahan, sa aking pag-ibig at katotohanan. Tanging ang kalakasan ko lamang ang lumaganap sa akin, gayunpaman walang ibang lakas. Palagi ang sanang maging mulat ako sa aking sariling mga kaisipan at damdamin, at inilalahad ko at ginagamit ang aking kaalaman, aking karunungan at ang aking kakayahan. At dito ko aakayin ang lahat ng sa totoong pag-ibig, kalayaan, pagkakaisa at kapayapaan mula sa aking sarili. Ang kapangyarihan ng aking kamalayan ay hindi lingid sa akin, kaya ginagamit ko ito sa aking sariling kagalingan para sa aking mga kaisipan at damdamin, ang aking kalooban, gayon din sa aking pangangatawan. Sa araw-araw ay ilahad sa akin ang paggamit ng lakas ng kamalayan upang ito ay patuloy na gumana sa akin at hayaan akong harapin ang mga bagay na hindi ko pa natututunan, kung saan pinangangalagaan ko ang aking karunungan at ang aking kapantasan sa pagmamahal, pagsalat para sa iba, pati na rin sa pag-unawa at katwiran. Sa pamagitan ng kalakasan ng aking kamalayan, kinikilala ko ang aking mga pagkakamali at nalulutas ito at naiiwasan pang gumawang muli, kaya't walang ano pa mang mga pagkakamali ang makakahadlang sa aking pagunlad at pagsulong. Ang kapangyarihan ng aking kamalayan ay kayang kilalanin at iwasan ang mga maling aral, maling paraan ng pag-iisip at mga panganib mula sa pagkakandili sa isang paniniwala, pati na rin ang mapanganib na material at mga makamundong bagay. Sa pamamagitan ng kalakasan ng aking kamalayan, ako mismo ay may hawak ng aking sariling katalinuhan at pangangatwiran, at sa pamamagitan ng buong lakas ng aking kamalayan, sa lahat ng oras ay palagi ang mulat sa aking kapangyarihan, sa aking kakayahan, sa aking kapayapaan, at sa karunungan, pati na rin ang aking kapantasan, pag-ibig at pagkakasundo na aking pinanghahawakan. Namumuhay ako sa pag-ibig, namumuhay ako sa kapayapaan, namumuhay ako sa kalayaan, namumuhay ako sa pagkakasundo, namumuhay ako sa kagaanan, namumuhay ako sa kalusugan, at namumuhay ako sa kagalakan. Ako nawa.
Thank you, Sister Ellen. So that was the seventh version of the Nocodemian prayer, followed by the 7 affirmations in Tagalog. So now I'm going to do the German counterpart, the seventh version of the Nocodemian prayer as well, and followed by the 7 affirmations in German and English. Okay. So this is the seventh or the last version. Siebentes Geistelehre, Gebet von Nocodemion, Seltsam Sprechung, geschaffen vom letzten Enoch, from Enoch. Über die Kraft meines Bewusstseins führe ich mit meinem Verstand und mit meiner Vernunft allein die Allmacht über mein Wissen, die Wahrheit, mein Können, meine Liebe und Wahrheitlichkeit aus. Allein meine Macht breitet sich in mir aus, jedoch keine andere, so ich mir stets meine eigenen Gedanken und Gefühle bewusst bin und mein Wissen, meine Weisheit und mein Können entfalte und nutze und damit alles zur wahren Liebe, Freiheit Harmonie und zum Frieden in mir für. Die Kraft meines Bewusstseins ist mir eine Bestimmtheit, so ich sie zum eigenen Wohl für meine Gedanken und Gefühle und die Suche sowie für meinen Körper nutze. Täglich entfalte und nutze ich meine Bewusstseinskraft, so sie ständig in mir wirkt und mich meinem Unwissen begegnen lässt, wodurch ich mein Wissen und meine Weisheit mit Liebe, mit Gefühl sowie mit Verständnis und Vernunft nähere. Durch die Kraft meines Bewusstseins erkenne ich selbst meine Fälle und behebe sie und vermeide, neu zu beginnen, so mich keiner mehr in meiner Entwicklung und im Fortkommen hindern können. Die Kraft meines Bewusstseins lässt mich falsche Lehren, falsche Denkweisen und alle Gefahren von Glaubensabhängigkeit sowie von schädlichen materiellen und weltlichen Dingen erkennen und sie vermeiden. Durch meine Bewusstseinskraft bin ich selbst meines Verstandes und meiner Vernunft mächtig und durch die Almas meines Bewusstseins bin ich mir allseitig meiner Kraft, meines Kennens, meines Friedens und Wissens sowie meiner Weisheit, Liebe und Harmonie bewusst und kontrolliere alles. Now the seven affirmations in German and English. Ich lebe in Liebe. I live in love. Ich lebe in Frieden. I live in peace. Ich lebe in Freiheit. I live in freedom. Ich lebe in Harmony. I live in harmony. Ich lebe unbeschwert. I live unburdened. Ich lebe in Gesundheit. I live in health. Ich lebe in Freude. I live in peace. In joy, sorry. Freude, joy. Okay. All right. So I guess our uh, host will be reading from the Psyche today. They were reading from the Psyche, page 124. All right. Second paragraph from the top. Thinking represents a pure consciousness based process. This process is formless, but it possesses life and power. A thought, once conceived, lives very much longer than its originator. Each mode of thinking, each kind of thinking, and every thought has a quite distinct effect, either for the evil or for the good. This in the body as well as in the character, in the destiny, and in the environment. Each thought anchors itself in the subconsciousness and from there embodies itself in the form of the resulting deeds, etc., and influences the psyche, the physical body, and the environment. Consequently, whoever perpetually concentrates their thoughts on hatred and revenge finally ends up inevitably as a murderer. Concentrated thoughts of the self pity, the helplessness, the feelings of being rejected, despised, useless, and superfluous, and eventually in suicide. On the other hand, if the thoughts are concentrated on progress, success, happiness, love, etc., then a corresponding success will ensue with the accuracy of a precision apparatus. Thus, everything that is thought is determined to be or not to be because the thought, the thinking, carries the human being upwards up to unexpected heights, or it hurls him or her downwards, down into the deepest depths of the annihilation. There is still very much more. Thinking creates energy of tremendous power. Every thought sends out energetical waves of the highest frequency. This means the thoughts themselves radiate as immensely strong energy waves, which are based in heretofore unmeasurably high frequencies. They leave the framework of their origin, speed out into the unending expanses of the universe, unhindered and unstoppable, in order to bring forth effects and conditions entirely according to their kind. Depending on the thought, they raise away as an invisible but gigantic might of the light or of the darkness, further charging and strengthening themselves on other thought energies of the same kind, which likewise rush through the expanses of the universe and ether, the ether. Having reached their outermost range, they then search for their way back, in which case, however, their form of energy transforms itself indeed into an opposite, this through the attraction, just as with a magnet. Thus, the positive automatically attracts the negative, and the negative the positive. And this final resulting form of energy returns eventually as a tremendous might, bringing annihilation or life to the thought emitter. Thereby to be noted, however, is the circumstance that this process occurs somewhat peculiarly, and that it therefore also requires quite special attention, just like a magnet which has two different poles. Its
Sige,
function.
break muna. Break
Oh,
muna tayo. Sige. Parang it comes to my mind that before thinking, like yung napag-aralan natin sa CR 932, parang before thinking, meron tayo pang aayusin na sinabi ni Billy na it goes back kung ano yung naging bunga natin ngayon, yung DNA ngayon natin, whatever condition, the way we think, we go back, no? At it's not only through meditation process, kundi yung tingnan natin how we think, saan ang gagaling yung bago tayo mag-isip. So, ipinaliwanag doon yung the very very start of life, no, na nagkaroon ng yung sinabing mga atoms, mga gas atoms, yung bago naging matter, bago naging solid, gas, liquid, and then solid, and then meron pang na-mention na si Richie na tatlo pa, yung plasma, no? At itong mga sangkap na ito ay kumbaga itong mga pinagmula ng mga atoms ay nasa katawan natin mismo, no? It comes sa ating mga kumbaga may battalion of soldiers diyan sa loob ng ating katawan na may magnet, may energetic, fine, fluidal, meron sama-sama diyan na we should be thinking of. We should be kumbaga may kanya-kanya silang function diyan sa loob ng ating body na nagpo-produce ng good thinking and bad thinking, negative and positive. So, ang sa akin lang i-acknowledge natin every single cell sa loob ng ating body, yung mga blood, veins, at sana tama at nasusunod yung mga kung ano yung tumatakbo diyan sa loob ng ating katawan. Maayos, organized, yun ang binanggit ni Billy, it should be organized para magkaroon ng order. So by doing that, parang nag-aano tayo, nagre-refresh tayo ng ating mga sarili, nagkakaroon ng self, ah, kumbaga, self-acknowledgement, ano, na meron diyan na katulong natin yung mga atoms and mga kung ano yung nasa loob ng ating katawan. At by means of that, magkakaroon tayo ng right thinking na hindi maging critics, maging pessimist, maging dahil we go deep first inside, ano, isipin natin yung inside. Mamaya, meron ng mga bukol-bukol dyan na bunga ng ating mga pag-iisip, meron na dyan na abnormalities na bunga ng ating hindi natin pag-acknowledge mismo sa loob ng ating katawan. So yun lang, we go deeper more sa ating mga sarili. Kaya nga, know thyself, including our body. Hindi lang yung sa pag-iisip, kundi yung material self natin. Yun lang. Thank you.
Yeah, I just wanted to add to that. Richie um, shared the diagram in the chat about actually the six states of matter:
Mm-hmm.
solid, liquid, gas, plasma, and then two others that are new to me: the Bose-Einstein condensate and the fermionic condensate. They look like, well, they look like they're very colorful and look like they're like the beginning of I think they're kind of like wormholes to me anyway, or they look like an upside down hurricane, something like that. Only they're pointing outwards, almost like where you have stalactites coming down, then the stalagmites going up. That's what they look like anyway here, but it's really dramatic stuff. So anyway, that's I just wanted to add that in there. So, yeah, we have to really monitor the type of thoughts that we're emitting from our consciousness because they have so much power and might that we don't realize, and they gather strength as we emit across the universe because we're both transmitters and also receivers. Anyone else can comment? Or
Siguro din tingnan din natin yung type ng dugo natin, no? Ano ba ang karakteristik niya? Yung B, O, AB, ganon. Tingnan din natin kung ah ah, ano ang effect nito sa ating pagkatao.
Hello.
yes, hi there, David dear. Yes.
Since tomorrow is Father's Day, I have a dad joke.
Food, wherein your food is only this.
I think I read you can't trust atoms because they make up everything.
That went over my head, but it's funny what.
Well, anyway, atoms and all these fine particles are still very large compared to the creational energy, and that's the thing that keeps me astounded. As the Pleiadians in the recent 932, Helen reminded me that they can't even find or measure the creational energy that exists throughout everything. It's too fine, it's too primal. And that's an astounding thing to think about. It's beyond the subatomic. And that's why I thought of that funny joke. Back to you guys.
Oh, then it's more like a really subatomic level, yeah. The quantum field we're talking about in here.
Something, yeah.
Yeah, because if it's under if it's below the atomic range, then it's subatomic, then
Mhm.
more like the we're dealing with the quantum field with all its possibilities. Just like in the universe, what is seen or material is almost it's minimal compared to the field of possibilities, which is the quantum field, which is like the dark matter or dark energy, whatever saying, because that's all the range of possibilities.
Right.
Yeah. Okay.
Hmm.
And I'm glad Archie's here too. I wonder where Richie might be busy. I don't know.
Yeah.
Okay, let me know if make more have comments or anybody who's got impulses from their subconsciousness to share whatever we.
Can I ask Archie?
Arch.
Arts, hi, good evening. Welcome to the group to our Saturday study session.
Unless he can speak, maybe he's on a listening mode.
Then, okay, you can proceed reading.
Okay. All right. So let me go a little above here. All right. And this final resulting form of energy returns eventually as a tremendous might, bringing annihilation or life to the thought emitter. Thereby to be noted, however, is the circumstance that this process occurs somewhat peculiarly and that it therefore also requires quite special attention. Just like a magnet, which has two different poles, its function must also be come understood in order to work with it. The plus pole or positive is capable of attracting only negatives, whereas the minus pole negative repels everything if the counterpart is not positive. Therefore, when it is said that radiated evil thoughts, worries, and unsatisfaction, etc., are hurled back with a boomerang like effect, in which case they inevitably strike the thought emitter again with devastating force, which also occurs with good thoughts, however, with only good effects, then this is therefore to be rightly understood and indeed as follows. According to nature, a radiated thought, whether negative or positive, will be hurled back again exactly as it was sent out, only with only very immensely strengthened. However, to be noted is that the powers become transformed since, according to nature, the learning requirement of the consciousness in every wise stands always at the forefront.
Mhm.
Therefore, when a boomerang like effect is
Effect.
spoken of, then it is thus to be understood that the boomerang is hurled away and caught again. The boomerang in this case represents the thoughts, and the power of the hurl is quite simply the power of the thought emission. When the boomerang comes back to the hurler, he or she then again catches the same boomerang thoughts which he or she has hurled away or sent out. However, the power which hits the boomerang hurler or thought emitter by the catching of the returning boomerang thoughts has changed or transformed itself during the return flight,
Mhm.
namely into a striking power, thought return reception. So the substance of the boomerang thought thus remains the same, whereas the hurling power, thought emitting power, transforms itself into a recoil power, thought return power. Therefore, while the hurling away requires only physical power, purposefulness, and no pain, the catching again of the boomerang on the return flight requires great skillfulness. courage and the acceptance of the not to be overlooked pain of the blow of the catch. Therefore, this is how the hurling power transforms itself into a striking power, whereas the boomerang itself remains in its material form. This preceding nature conditioned example also works along the same lines as the consciousness powers. Therefore, if a positive thought is radiated, it transforms itself in its power form and hits the thought emitter negatively. So it also occurs with the emission of a negative thought, which, however, hits the thought emitter positively. It appears as a paradox, but it is not such because the whole process is completely logical, correct, and nature conditioned. The consciousness needs the positive as well as the negative. Consequently, a way must be pursued which ensures the positive as well as the negative. So it is therefore forcibly conditioned that upon a negative thought emission, a positive thought reception occurs, which consequently is the case again also in the reverse form. Inevitably, thus, according to nature, for the positive, the negative, and for the negative, the positive must be harvested, which then must be processed according to its form. That which is received again means new working material for the consciousness and the thoughts. Negatives again become transformed into positives, and positives again into negatives through the thought workup to the positive equalizedness. Would only positive for positive and only negative for negative be harvested and no resulting equalizedness, then automatically the thought material would run out and the whole thinking ability would suddenly lie dormant.
Mhm.
However, in order for
Okay,
consciousness,
break natin
oh,
doon. Oo, napakaganda ng binasa mo, Cynthia, and hope we can trace it out into more uh, clear and through our comments, yung bawat isa sana makapag-share about this boomerang effect sa ating nangyayari sa ating mga pag-iisip. So, if we are strongly a positive person, yung positive talaga, it will come a time na marirealize natin na it's not also advantageous para sa atin yung masyadong sobrang positive kasi hindi na natin makikita yung other side, no? Yung other side, hindi tayo nag-anticipate of what will happen dahil sa sobrang positive. But yung boomerang na sinasabi, kung positive thinker tayo, yung boomerang na sinasabi is this world is full of negative, no? Itong mundo natin sa ngayon is full of negative, full of worries, full of doubts, ano? So babalik sa yung negative, merong babalik kahit papaano. Laging may maisisingit na negative sa'yo, maipupukol sa'yo because yung positive is not, kumbaga hindi siya fad, hindi siya yung kokonti lang yung nag-iisip ng positive. So mas malakas yung negative sa atin at kung yung boomerang effect na yon kung bumalik sa atin dahil talo tayo doon sa ating positive thinking, dapat ready tayo doon sa boomerang effect na yon na we will still be maintain yung positiveness natin, but we should also understand yung negative na dumating sa atin, yung pag-strike ng negative, we should also think about that. and understand why it happened and why, and we should think also kasi yung pagiging negative din parang nagiging more intelligent din ang mga tao dahil nag-anticipate merong mga presumption kasi sila na because yung world natin ay masyadong magulo, nagiging defensive ang mga tao. So, we should treat it that way na yung negative na dadating sa atin is just because human beings became defensive lagi na nag-anticipate sila ng the worst that will happen, yung mga ganon. So, yun lang. Sana si Richie, si Archie ay makapag-share sa atin.
Yes, yes. Thank you.
Uh-huh.
Hello, everyone.
Yeah, hello.
Yeah, hi.
Yes, I'm listening. Maybe what I can offer you is because I practice and I teach breath work and awakening the consciousness for a long time. Maybe this is I can contribute this way. So what I've learned by studying this type of work, um, it's informations, but how do you actually embody this wisdom that we are discussing? And what I've learned, it begins on perceptions. What I mean is awakening to that information and bring it into the body. And to start, how I did it was in a regular basis is to master my breath, because
Mhm,
breath is not just air or oxygen, it's geometry, it's the axis of perception. It awakens. When you inhale, it's a signal to the atoms, it activates them. And if it's done intentionally and deeply, it changes the alchemicals of the body. It's awakened the consciousness. And then when you exhale, it creates a command. And so when you do this in a regular basis, deep, intentional, it changes the inward housing of the consciousness. It creates what they call coherence. It aligns. And all of these ideas that Tita Ellen is talking about, it happens automatically when you are in that state of stillness. It has its own intelligence of correction.
mhm,
And in that state, there's no negative nor positive.
mhm,
It's just life. There's no mind into it. It has its own reorganizing state of intelligence of its own. And we have to trust it. And when I go there to that space, is you just flow and you're awakened to it, but you become a witness of its own organization. It's amazing when you are in that state. There's nothing to fix. There's nothing. It's just life. It's not even asking perfection,
mhm,
and when that state is, they call it. It's not even enlightenment. They call it embodiment.
mhm,
You just simply align your entire focus of state, and that stillness, it reorganizes itself, and
mhm,
and it was an effortless space.
mhm,
There's no mind, there's no more strategy. The mind is no longer thinking about fixing anything or healing anything. And to get there, at least from my own experience, is breath. It has its own rhythm.
mhm,
And unfortunately, we are programmed to breathe so shallow because of all the trauma that we have in this life, and somehow blocked it. And so it has something to do to our nervous system's design now. It only allows you to go further because it's so constricted for a long time. And so that means is on breath work, the way I teach it and I do it is I exercise the nervous system slowly get expanded. So then it can be able to increase the capacity to perceive all of these things. And but you cannot do it so rush, because the it's not safe. As soon as the nervous system feel that you're not safe, it's gonna stop.
Mhm.
Anyway, so that's just I'm gonna stop there, and that's my take on that. Thank you.
Yeah. It's true, Archie, na yung breath natin, really, it is the creation energy that we are talking about.
Yes.
Yeah, it's the creation energy, yung hininga, yung buhay, that we should focus more doon sa ating hininga na overlook natin yung buhay, the very life na meron ang human being. Yeah, that is very true. So maybe we'll go back. That is why know thyself. We'll go back to ourself na mapagtuunan natin ang mga bagay-bagay in a very smallest. Sabihin nating smallest yung ating hininga, but the strongest, the the which has the most powerful na merong magagawa sa ating pagkatao, ating personality. Okay, thank you, Archie.
Mhm.
So parang nakita ko si Renz. Are you there, Renz? Kasi yung topic dito, yung boomerang effect. So, I know you are familiarized with that, and you always mention that word, that boomerang effect. Ito yon dun sa page 126.
Yes, tita. Sorry, kaka. Gising ka lang. Pero you catch up later on. Yeah. We can continue reading maybe.
Yeah, just brought to mind as Arch was talking that that there's both also a positive Ausartung and negative Ausartung, which is what's most common with what's going on in the world. But if we are don't acknowledge the reality also of the negative forces, then we're putting blinders on ourselves. So that's why it's good to be aware, but to be neutral, positive. So to give it that edge, so that uh, that's a balanced way to evolve.
Mhm.
Okay. All right, I'll go back to where we ended here on page 128. Okay. All right. Where did we end here? Okay. Negatives again
Therefore,
become.
how the hurling power. Is that where we stop?
No, I think because what happens when you stop me in the middle of a paragraph, it's hard to. I like to usually to end in paragraphs so that the thought it's complete, But when we stop in the middle, then it's harder to conceive. I don't know. That's the way my brain works. I'm only speaking for myself here.
Ang mga
Okay. So I don't now. That's why now I don't know where we ended up again. Because we ended in mid paragraph instead of ending a paragraph at a time. I think we should. Just my suggestion that we end like in paragraphs and then
Yeah.
hold your thoughts because
130,
otherwise.
page 130, Cynthia.
Oh, we're in
One
130 now? What?
or 122.
8 pa tayo.
Kaka.
Ah,
Mhm.
see? That's why it's hard to find our way here. And we got lost. 128, where would that which is received again?
Yeah, nandun
Okay. All
therefore.
right. That's why. Oh, therefore.
Yeah. Therefore,
Okay.
how?
Oh, I'm really lost now. Therefore.
Therefore,
So it is therefore
telling pa.
forcibly. So it is therefore forcibly conditioned that upon a negative thought emission, a positive thought reception occurs, which consequently is the case again, also in the reverse form. Inevitably, thus, according to nature, for the positive, the negative, and for the negative, the positive must be harvested, which then must be processed according to its form. That which is received again means new working material for the consciousness and the thoughts. Negatives again become transformed into positives, and positives again into negatives through the thought workup to the positive equalizedness. Would only positive for positive and only negative for negative be harvested and no resulting equalizedness, then automatically the thought material would run out and the whole thinking ability would suddenly lie dormant. However, in order for consciousness based evolving and to be able to further evolve to this end, this form of the thought hurling is necessary. When positive is sent out, negative is harvested for it. This negative, in turn, is transformed to positive thought through the thought work, thereby processed into the usable good which can become utilized again. This process repeats itself again and again without ever stopping, and it occurs equally so with the negative. The process is exactly the same. Negative is sent out, positive is harvested, which through the thought work is again changed into negative and again finds application in new usage. But with this process alone, it is not enough because the human being must indeed finally, at some point, become equalized. Consequently, with each train of thought, useful negative and positive cognitions separate, which settle themselves as effective knowledge in the subconsciousness and can never again be lost. This knowledge forms the consciousness potential, which consists of positive and negative in equal parts. Therefore, two different components which, when unified, form a whole. Only through this, the human being, in the course of thousands of years, in the developmental process of his or her many reincarnations, creates a spiritual and a consciousness based equalizedness which works towards the relative absolute fulfillment. Now, there's an asterisk there. Now, the footnote says relative absolute fulfillment, a Volkumung. So now this is a Figo dictionary terminology. For the further clarification of the boomerang effect, please see the appendix, page 224. So I guess we'll go there, which is at the back of the book, 224. Wait a minute.
Reader's question. Yeah.
224, reader's question regarding the boomerang effect. Reader question number 1. Hello, Christian. I'm still unclear as to the explanation in wording from the psyche. Either a sent out thought comes back as a positive or a negative, but does it come back as both at the same time? See my question below and the text leading up to it. Thank you, and Salome. Michael. On page 62 of the Sutta, German only, or 123 or 124 of this book, we read, depending on the thought, they race away as an invisible but gigantic might of the light or of the darkness, further charging and strengthening themselves on other thought energies of the same kind, which likewise rush through the expanses of the universe and the ether. Having reached their outermost range, they then search for their way back, in which case, however, their form of energy transforms itself, indeed, into an opposite. This through the attraction, just as with a magnet. So far, so good. Thoughts go out. Let's say, for example, positive, healthy thoughts attract other similar thought vibrations, reach their maximum, flip in polarity, and return to the sender only intensified. So on page 63 of the Sutta, German only, or 125 or 126 of this book, we read, therefore, when it is said that radiated evil thoughts, worries, and unsatisfactions, etc., are hurled back with a boomerang like effect, in which case they inevitably strike the thought emitter again with devastating force, which also occurs with good thoughts, however, with only good effects, then this is therefore to be rightly understood, and indeed as follows. According to nature, a radiated thought, whether negative or positive, will be hurled back again exactly as it was sent out, only very immensely strengthened. So far, so good. Thoughts that are sent out are thrust back exactly as they were sent out, only greatly intensified, but with the polarity changed. At the bottom of page 63, excuse me, of the Sutra, German only, or 125, 126 of the book, of this book, we read, so the substance of the boomerang or thought thus remains the same, whereas the hurling power, the thought emitting power, transforms itself into a recoil power or thought return power. So far, so good. The substance of the thought remains the same. Therefore, positive thought is sent out, returns as a greatly intensified positive thought with its polarity change. So on page 64, this has German only 127, 128 of this book. We read, the consciousness needs the positive as well as the negative. Consequently, a way must be pursued which ensures the positive as well as the negative. So it is therefore forcibly conditioned that upon a negative thought emission, a positive thought reception occurs, which consequently is the case again also in the reverse form. Inevitably, thus, according to nature, for the positive and the negative, and for the negative, the positive must be harvested, which then must be processed according to its form. That which is received again means new working material for the consciousness and the thoughts. Now, this appears to be a contradiction, and here arises the problem. It's clear that we need both the negative and positive in order to come to a complete understanding. And so I can understand how for a positive thought, a negative thought is reaped in order to once again be transformed into a positive. For this example, utilizing thought work, whereby there is a learning of both the negative and positive. This, however, seems to contradict what was previously stated that the radiated positive thought comes back exactly how it was sent out, except intensified and changed in its polarity. Question on this part. Question, can you please clarify this apparent contradiction? Thanks, and Salome, Michael. Okay, this response number one. Hi, Michael. That's an old issue. Then there's a smiley face. First, I think that what puzzles you is that you connect positive and negative thought too firmly with bad and good. Positive and negative thought can be read as positive or negative power. Good thoughts in their substance are coming back as good thoughts, substance, but during their flight or radiation, their polarity has changed into the opposite. This then gives or enables new food stuff for the for the consciousness to work with. Salome, Christian. Reader question number 2. Hello, Christian. Okay, so a negative or unhealthy thought or substance is sent out and returns as a positive unhealthy thought or substance, but due to the fact that it returns as a positive polarity or thought power, it creates new foodstuff to enable evolution. Is this the correct understanding? I need to be absolutely clear on this because I'm sure that the question will be asked again and again. Likewise, if a positive, healthy thought substance is sent out, it returns as a negative, healthy thought or substance. But because it is of a negative polarity or thought power, it creates new working material for the consciousness to reconvert into positive polarity, healthy thoughts or substance. Please correct me if I'm wrong in my understanding. Salome, Michael. Response number 2. Hi, Michael. You got it. Exactly. Salome, Christian. Okay.
Did anyone
I
has
hope.
question?
Yeah, I hope.
I think, but it's on the back of the response, so I think that's really an old issue. So I think, I mean, it's for the new, and then those people who don't have a book but to ask question. So it's really good.
Yeah, but it's it's a new thought for I think, well, those that have the book and know already, but then I mean, I'm speaking even for myself to go over this again. uh Helps clarify what the process is that make it seem contrary to itself, but then it just it I think it's a process where that polarity is switched, but then when it comes back as it gathers force, it becomes positive is what you sent out, then that's what you get too. Oh, so okay. Where
Siguro,
did we
siguro, not all positive are positive. You can say it positive only eh, according to the person. According to the person who's saying that it's positive. But not all positive. That's why I said it that not all positive is positive because
Mm.
the ego who's saying that it is positive. So when it emits, yung sinasabi na uh, pinakawalan natin yung positive na yon, ang babalik is negative. Ganun ba yon? Babalik is negative dahil pagdating diyan makaka-attract siya ng more positive, no? More positive. Kasi kasi energy eh, energy. And pag nagpakawala tayo ng positive, makakamit siya ng mga positive din. And then kung hindi naka-align yung positiveness natin doon sa totoong positive, then negative effect yung magkakaroon ng impulse sa atin ng negative, pero yung negative na yon mag-equalize doon sa ating perception of being positive. Ewan ko kung nakuha nyo.
well, that back again to the 226, the reader question number 2, because they wanted to just to clarify it. Okay. So a negative or an unhealthy thought or substance sent out returns as a positive unhealthy thought or substance, but due to the fact that it returns as a positive polarity or thought power, it creates new food stuff to enable evolution. So he said, is this the correct understanding? I need to be absolutely clear on this because I'm sure that the question will be asked again and again. Likewise, if a positive, healthy thought or substance sent out, it returns as a negative, healthy thought or substance. But because it is of a negative polarity or thought power, it creates new working material for the consciousness to reconvert it into positive polarity, healthy thought substance. Please correct me if I'm wrong. My understanding. And then Michael said, he said, no, you got it exactly. Salome, Christian.
Well, I think we need to separate yung kasi we always think positive is good, right? And we always think negative is bad.
Mhm.
We should remove that connotation and understanding because their energy, there are powers. Remember yung physics law of motion, yung up, yung ah yung sabi nga opposite attracts, 'di ba? Kasi positive, positive, it always repel, positive, negative, they attracts. 'Di ba? Hindi ibig sabihin na sinabi natin, oh, positive thoughts and will come. The substance will be positive but with greater force. Kaya nag-change yung polarity kasi it's coming back to you like electricity. Right? Kasi ang nature and creation laws, it always says positive, negative, but it doesn't say good or bad. It's only connotations for human being, yung pagle-label ng good and bad. But
Mhm.
everything is always a positive and negative, right?
Well,
Kasi sa atin, oh, it's bad, but it's not really bad. It's just negative, but of course it has positive. If how you going to take it, right? Kasi everything is we send out, it always has ano meron na siyang force na it's intensified siya, right? Because it's always come back not equal yung force niya kasi iikot pa rin siya like energy.
I
Yeah.
think I think that's the point that you brought up. We should talk about it in terms of nature, which in our case, in reality, is electricity. So electricity needs both positive and negative to work, right? So I think this notion of good or bad is more a religious belief, actually, because I think
Absolutely.
because when you're talking electricity, when you're talking the positive, negative, or even just like magnets, that's just a way to differentiate the forces. You differentiate
Mhm.
them, but you do not add that connotation of good or bad, because that's more a religious concept, but
Uh,
or belief. But when you think about it, that it could be used to cook something. Okay, but you could also use
exactly.
it. You could also use it to 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 electrify somebody. Capital punishment, death. So it could bring death
Yeah.
or it could bring life, food to eat and stuff, cook your food, whatever. But you could also
Yeah.
use it to fry a human being. So that's the way that you should think about this. It's just a way to differentiate the forces. Yeah.
For example, in like us, everything has a value of positive and negative. Like for example, men value as positive, women value as negative, right?
Yeah.
So and then if you're gonna think that way, a religious way, not bad and good, and then we
Yeah.
had a big problem on that. But that's
Right.
how nature works, right? Everything has a
Yes.
value of positive and negative, but it doesn't mean
Yes.
they're bad. The other
Yes,
one
that's
is
what
good.
they're.
That's
Yeah, that's like the religious connotation that Eve was the one that ate the apple, so she's the bad guy, and then that's why she's punished. That's why she's got to go through labor, blah 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 blah. But then that's
but
part
that's
of
why
nature, is the bringing forth of life. And yeah, you're right. That women are vilified or say that this and that, but
yeah,
well,
that's all religious BS.
yeah,
Yeah.
that's yes.
But the thing is, they don't understand that they had equal value.
Yeah, exactly. And that the feminine forces are also good. And that's why the world is the way it is right now. full of Ausartungen because they think that that's the only way is that the power that the men have. So there's an unbalance in nature, and this is not. And you know, and if you really look back into time and evolution, it's the matriarchal societies that are actually earth affirming. You know that they embrace the whole, you know, because for example the you know women know firsthand what it takes to bring life into this planet, you know, the gateway to this material world. And then so then men who if do they do not have a direct link to the act of creation except to impregnate, you know, so they don't have that the same value that's given for life to come forth. You know, it's so easy to fight or to kill and stuff like that because they don't know what the 9 months, the even the process of childbirth that it takes to bring life into this world. So those are the things that people need to realize and respect, you know. That's anyway. I never gave birth, but then I can really certainly appreciate it, having been a nurse and seeing you know vaginal deliveries or even cesarean deliveries. I mean, that's that really is enough to really open your eyes and make you think twice before, you know, doing things that harm other people or kill. Yeah, she just kill when you need to eat or something like that. Is you cannot come up. Okay?
Ang pumasok naman sa isip ko in related to the boomerang na ipinapaliwanag kanina. Although it's the same boomerang na hawak mo pag bumalik sa'yo at hinagis mo, pero don't expect na magiging yung force niya is magiging the same. Kasi once na tinro mo, yung balik noon magkakaroon ng influence yung hangin, yung epekto noon para bumalik sa'yo. Kaya kung ine-expect natin na yung good ang babalik sa'yo pag nag-throw ka ng good is good din, it's not the same for reals. Yes, it's the same boomerang na babalik sa'yo, hawak mo, pero yung impact noon, hindi na ganoong sa katulad ng itinapon mo, no, kung paano mo siya hinagis. Kasi ang pagbalik noon, may force na either malakas, depende sa atmosfera, parang ganon. So, logic lang yun na hindi ka mag-expect na ang babalik din sa'yo kung good nga is good na ano, dahil nakaka-epekto ang surrounding. Na, same thing like sa ano, sa morals na usapan, hindi ganoon na mag-expect tayo ng good is good din ang babalik. May factor na mahahalo kahit pa paano. Pero you're still holding the same boomerang. Yun lang yung parang binigyan ko pa ng kahulugan yung related to boomerang yung topic.
I was yeah, while you were speaking, Zor, what impressed me was that the force with which we throw away, the force that comes back is even stronger. That's why it's harder to catch, to retrieve it than to throw it out because it has already gathered energy by that point, and it takes more skill to be able to actually receive it as it returns. So yeah, so we just have to be mindful of that and be better, I guess, at retrievers when things come back, you know, to us. Supposed to be here. Yeah, now go outside. Okay. Anybody else there?
Yes, hello.
Yes, David, please.
Hey, for me, the positive and negative of thought retrieval and action is can be summed up with a car. positively the car goes forward, but the negative power is braking. And therefore, when the boomerang powered thought comes back to one, you are braking and being in pausing and thinking, gee, do I really want to do this? Oh, and you start to pause and meditate and contemplate and think and maybe put it on hold. And that's how I see that, because it's it's harder to analyze and question yourself than to throw out the thought and believe it'll be okay. And that's why you have to watch a boomerang. And what Cynthia just said was so funny to me, because believe it or not, well, that's a funny thing to say to Figu, but once upon a time, I was in the Yale Boomerang Club in Connecticut. I belonged to the bunch of guys that made boomerangs out of wood, and we'd go to the big field in where they played soccer, and we'd throw boomerangs. And I remember the day I quit was because I threw the boomerang and it was wishing around and came back and hit me in the shin so hard. I was in great pain, and I just stopped. And because I wasn't paying attention to its return, because they're very hard to catch. They're spinning, and your hands have to catch them like one hand, and the other hand are horizontal, and you catch them with a kind of flapping, snapping. And so, anyway, now I'm realizing that what Billy's taught us is that positive negative is um, action and braking, or action and contemplation. And then finally, we know from the Pleiadians society, when they have a vast problem, say interplanetary, they'll put a thought on hold for years and return to see how it evolves. And that's the return of that boomerang, which in their case would be several societies over several planets. And you can imagine that the thoughts are so densely constructed that the boomerang is more like a floating city that's spinning around in the thoughts of millions of beings. Then it has to come back, and they have to just wait for it to settle, and everyone has to put on the brakes and therefore contemplate the thoughts. So that's how I see it. This is action and braking.
Well, thanks for sharing your personal experience with boomerangs. I mean, because I've never used the boomerang, and so that it's good to hear from someone who actually has been playing that big. I didn't know that. How did I mean that for me is, um, I guess, kind of a little scary in a way, because I'm thinking if you throw something at arm's length, how did it end up in the shin? And so I guess you really have to watch where the heck that thing is coming back from, because it could hit your head or your midsection, even if you threw it at that length. It I don't know how. Well,
Oh,
that's really kind of, I don't know.
it was pretty simple, Cynthia. I was in the
Mm.
valley. I was down. We were
Ah,
hill going up at a gradual, and I threw it. It went up, and then it came down and followed the curvature of the earth
ah,
and hit my.
oh.
And I had a bruise. I still have the boomerangs. When I see you in, you know what? When I see you in Arizona, I'll bring the boomerangs, and we could try it. I'll
Yeah, then you could show me what was the motion that you took throwing it out and how it came back to you. Yeah, I'd like to be able to see
yeah,
that, because I'm more of a visual learner, actually, to be honest. So that's why hearing is different from actually seeing for me, which is how I learned. So yeah,
sure,
I would appreciate, and I'll try to remind you to bring that boomerang. Okay,
good
cool.
idea.
Wow. Okay. All right.
Si
Anybody?
Archie
Oh, wait.
nag-raise ng hand.
Okay, Archie, dear, you have the floor.
I guess add up a little bit more about what Lorenz is talking about. What I've learned is there's a lot of information, especially now, and I think for me is like what Tesla is recommendation is to look at it in a point of view of frequency and energy, meaning that I refine the languaging, of how the universe or how the unified field they call it, how it how it talks back like the boomerang in a way. So as soon as I simplified the, I call it the language of creation laws or how it speaks, it kind of simplified the way I understand it. I don't look at it in bad or good or negative or positive. I just look at it as frequency, as energy. And whatever I omit, it comes back. It's a simple mirror, right? And it responds that way, and it has no emotion, and it has no judgment. So it really doesn't speak in the language of belief, or I call it human languaging of measuring things. So as soon as I align my perceptions into that experience, I realize that I become more attuned to what I omit, especially when I'm alone. And I'm very, very careful, especially on what I feel, not so much about thoughts, because I realize that my heart has, according to science now, is 5,000 stronger than my thoughts. And so I'm more conscious now on what I feel and what I send out. And anyway, so I just want to add that up. But Ren's explanation is on point. Thank you.
Oh, well, thank
Thank you.
you. Thank you.
That's a good thing about you mentioned regarding thoughts and feelings that we need to be careful because thoughts it's hard to tame or control, but the feelings is the easiest to simplify everything. But because thoughts and feelings are connected to each other, so feelings it happened because of the thoughts, but the thoughts is so there's so many there's so it's vast, right? It's hard to uh, control or tame the thoughts, but feelings is the easiest one. That simplifies everything. And of course, there's emotions also. That's a different thing because emotions also the neutral one is like it amplifies everything and it comes back again. So it's really good to understand everything the easiest way because I think everything nature creation self always revolves on that laws, the positive and negative. Everything is made on that principles, the frequency, energy, etc. All everything are on that principle. So the more we understand and simplify things, and it's easier for us. It's easier for us to how to it's easier for us to walk or apply the principles of creations and in the universe. Yeah, I'm Dante. Ate Cynthia, are
Okay.
you still there?
Yeah, I'm here. Okay, just putting some eye drops here. All right. To continue, we are now on page 130. Okay, where was that? Okay, I'll finish that sentence where they had the asterisk. Okay, only through this, the human being, in the course of thousands of years, in the developmental process of his or her many reincarnations, creates a spiritual and a consciousness based equalizedness which works towards the relative absolute fulfillment. The relative absolute fulfillment, which is percentage wise exactly as much positive as negative in order to ensure a fully spiritual as well as consciousness based equalizedness. It is necessary that the positive and the negative in the human being are of the exact equal strength because both are required by the consciousness in order to be equalized. Positive and negative are therefore necessary to life, only they must be brought to a normal state and become freed of Ausartungen. Even the primal creation lives in the consonance with positive and negative. Consequently, its creation, the human spirit, is identically formed. If there was only one component that's only positive or only negative, then the consciousness would not be able to evolve itself. Vain idiocy and absolute disinterest would prevail. For how could a creation be created if no knowledge and no interest for it exist? After thinking about this thoroughly, it results logically also that an idiotic, irrational teaching must exist when it is claimed that the human being should only be good and submissive in the sense that he or she must endure everything which simply befalls him or her, wanted or unwanted. The human being should be good and submissive as such. Wait a minute. The human being should be good and submissive as such, actually, as well as in the spirit and in the consciousness. However, this is truly quite certainly not so. He or she should not be good and submissive in the form which the religions teach, because this way brings only the consciousness based and bodily ruin. The creation itself demands of the spirit and of the consciousness to be positive and negative and thereby equalize. Therefore, already the irrational teachings of the religions are thereby recognizable and reveal that they are only the destructive machination of primitive thinking human beings, the work of primitive power hunger in delusion and charlatanry. It is quite right that in certain ways specific thoughts come back identically, simply as they were sent out, in the sense that positive comes back as effective positive and negative as effective negative. But this process is based on a deception and then only takes place when the thoughts lie in a relevant area that is feeling based conditional and which the consciousness has already accepted as cognition. So, for example, love and hatred, when they are actually and naturally in pure form. So then love can thus again be harvested for love and hatred again for hatred. But here again, be attentive that such thinking processes are no longer purely mental, but are simply already built up in a feeling based and emotional manner. Thoughts can only be divided into two kinds, namely into positive or negative. In addition to the natural minus in wider form and relative to the thinking, negative also means evil, ungood, negating, doubting thoughts. These undermine the morale, the psyche, and the advancement. Like magnets, they attract negative human beings who bring harm and ill will. Every form of failure and disharmony find entrance into the life. Power and health become weakened, disinterest arises, and then finally everything drives towards the self destruction. On the other hand, positive thoughts are upbuilding, life affirming, good, and healthy. They form the plus and strengthen the good character, attract desired human beings, helpers, and true friends. Success and happiness become the natural companions. Through the thinking, the human being fills his or her life with light or darkness, with misery and affliction, or with happiness and success. This always pursuant to the nature of the thoughts, according to their type and direction. A quite distinct direction of thought and kind of thinking, evolving in a quite distinct direction, is thus called negative or positive. Every thought attracts exactly what it sends out as power, negative or positive, exactly like a metal magnet which attracts only metal, thus the same kind, with the distinction that the same kind must be pulled differently. When the human being turns inward towards his or her thinking and its power, most of the sorrowful and self depressing experiences become unnecessary for the life. When the human being connects with their own thoughts in good form, then their power increases immeasurably and they raise themselves far above all influences and mights of the bodily and material world. Outer influences are able to exert might over the human beings only so long as these influences on the thinking are granted might. The might of the thoughts means tremendous richness, richness of life, or else total destruction. Richness of life, however, to say it straight away, does not consist of the stockpiling of material riches. These are only material values, which are transitory. Such riches are only sought for the sake of possessions and for the sake of prosperity. Whoever indulges in it becomes a slave to his or her possessions and obsessed with them. Naked, ego addicted greed for possession of riches or their acquisition inevitably attracts unwanted, terrible things to oneself sooner or later. Illnesses appear, domestic misery, unfortune, painful losses, so that the true happiness never finds admittance. It is only natural and self evident that forcibly induced or intensively and continuously wished for prosperity inevitably turn up because with enough perseverance and effort, everything becomes reality one day, even if it is forced unrightly and through naked Gewalt. But via the negative form come all sorts of afflictions and heavy strokes of fate, which, like the hammer of a blacksmith, strike upon the originator with gigantic, deadly Gewalt. This is in contrast to the conscious, positive, might oriented thinker who is able to master his or her life rightly and healthily. He or she uses and follows only pure consciousness based positive methods, right thinking, and right deeds. Through this, the laws of life are followed, which naturally demand only the positive, yet never the negative, when a positive mode of thinking is present. Thus, also, a fully different point of origin emerges in the reference to the thinking. Indeed, the wish is the same, namely to achieve richness and prosperity, but the mentality and the actual fulfillment are fundamentally different. And precisely the mentality is of the decisive importance for the kind of success. Whoever presses his or her thoughts into a base mentality and forces them towards egotistical purposes will regret it sooner or later. Consciousness based physical and psychical Gewalt, consciousness based deterioration, and false thinking can never again, can never remain unpunished. They inevitably demand their tribute, and these only in the form of all imaginable terrible things that reach up to the complete and self destruction. Remorse and cognition then unfortunately come too late. Should a wish of any kind become realized, then the harmony of the consciousness must first be produced through a right and healthy mode of thinking. Only in this way, that which is sought after is then able to become carefree reality without hindrance and bitterness. So we stop there first before the next paragraph, a long paragraph. So for any thoughts, impulses, sharing, questions.
There was mention about the reincarnation. I want just to insert this little topic about reincarnation because I think Billy has updated the word the reincarnation. I think he said, correct me if it is updated already, that reincarnation does not exist, or there's another term for it, reawakening or something like that.
Yeah. Well, right now, because of the false belief and understanding about reincarnation, that's why Billy and the Pleiara, they're trying to uh tag dito, they need to clear everything. Because reborn doesn't exist, reincarnation doesn't exist. But it's mean only is the creation life energy, and creation energy is reawaken or reactivate. Gano'n. So deactivates because you're not the same personality anymore. And kasi when we use reincarnation, we always think, oh, we are the same personality, but the older one is gone. You know, we had new personality created, new consciousness, new set of life, new everything is new. And even the creation energy and creation life energy is already evolving and evolved already from previous personality or previous awakening, right? So yeah, that's why we use the new term. We don't use the term reincarnation anymore. Yeah, but on the past teacher, of course, we use it because we need to understand that we return, but not as a new as Lawrence as me as personality as me, but as a different personality that is more refined, evolved, and ganun. Your creation energy and creation life energy.
So the same thing din kila Billy, no? Na sila ay different personality every time na bumalik sila dito sa mundo.
Yeah, it's
Okay.
different personality at the same time, different creation life energy evolution. So because you gathered more wisdom and knowledge. Yeah, kasi everything kasi ng value, right? Yung positive, negative. Right? So babalik ulit tayo. So the value of positive and negative, it always equalize at the end after death. 'Di ba? Death is also negative, correct? But birth is positive. For example, that one. So lahat ng mga essences is the only thing na natitira that only stored to our creational energy and creational life energy. So everything will equalize. So lahat ng mga negative na and positive na ano, unequalized, it need to be gone. Mawawala siya. Only those equalize.
Kasi doon sa CR 932, ang sinasabi, yung teachings ang ah, magre-reincarnate kumbaga. Magpapatuloy yung teachings na dala-dala ni na Billy at saka yung mga previous prophets. Parang
Oh, that's different. That's a different context, Tita Helen. We're talking about reincarnation. If we're talking about lineage of the teaching,
oo, oo.
that's will come through eventually sa mga prophet. That's a different context na yung sinabanggit ko kanina about reincarnation. Yeah. Yeah, the teaching will, like for example, there's a seven prophet, right? And
Mm.
then they inherited the will of the yung teachers, yung mga prophet, ganun. So, and that's That's the lineage of the prophet. Yun yung binabanggit dun sa CR. And I think that's will be the different topic, so we don't really digress later on. Yeah. And there's something unclear about it kasi maraming there's still unclear for me kasi marami siyang binabanggit din doon na they're just trying to avoid a lot of religious followers again to worship the prophets. I think that's why they're trying to, for me, in my own view, kung yung pag-usapan, they need to put away na, oh, they're just prophet, they're just the bearer of the truth. They're the teacher, the heralds, but we don't need to worship them and focus too much on their personality because it's gone. It's finished, right? We need to on this teaching right now. We need to focus because even the teaching of the previous prophet or herald, they had different form of teaching the creational laws, but the essence are the same. 'Di ba? Yung essence are the same. So right now we had the different form also of the teaching because it's really talking to us in this era or epoch, right? So we had a different form. So but the essence are the same. Ganun. Same as what our personality also and the creation energy and creation life energy, everything is evolving. Mm.
Parang nako-compare ko lang na it's not different with us na para din tayong mga herald, 'di ba? In our own way na 'pag tayo ulit, we will continue on studying these creational teachings. Gano'n ba 'yun? 'Yun ang
Not necessarily. For
oh,
me, kasi every personality is different, right? Every personality. Because for example, you are born herald, last personality, it doesn't guarantee that you will be born herald again. Kasi you need to learn different walks of life.
pero
Yeah, but the essence, yung consciousness mo na yung mga baon-baon mo na mga cognitions, knowledge, and wisdom, etc. Always remain to your creation life energy, and you had access to that subconsciously.
okay.
I don't hear you.
Oh, are you? Okay,
Oh,
I'm back. I'm back.
now maybe
Who's that?
Richie.
Richie.
Are
Yes,
you
yes,
want
well,
any more comment on that?
it's okay. I will um, just want to share to everybody. I'm sorry to. I think I diverted our topic about the psyche, but it's just the highlights of the
Yeah,
word reincarnation. That's why I'm just preparing everybody uh, to familiar yourself with the word incarnation, rebirth, because it will be updated soon, and we will wait for further announcement. What will be the FIGO? What will be the real statement or the correct terminology, so that we will not be confused. So that's only my you call this one simple message to everybody. That's all.
yeah. I think we should go back on the thoughts and about our thoughts, right? So we're because everything has polarity, right? Positive and negative. So, but paano ba 'to? Kailangan natin siyang explain further pa, eh. Kasi
Oo nga,
we need to relate it into our daily life
yeah.
kung bakit nagkakaroon tayo ng ganitong positive thoughts. Kasi it's easier if we're going to, put an example sa buhay natin, sa daily life natin, right? So, kasi we understand the process naman, yung kanina we already explained how it works, right? Kasi nature itself doesn't really think how we think, like a person, a positive, negative, or good or bad, right? So it doesn't think like us, it happened. That's nature, right? So it's like nature. Nature doesn't really care, concern about what you're thinking, on what is your opinion and what is your thoughts about it. It doesn't care. It doesn't. It only does. It only does is the principles. That's how it works. That's the laws. Regardless kung ano yung values mo, ano yung morality mo, ano yung belief mo, or etc. etc. But that's why we are still trying to understand right now. We're trying to understand what is really matter to us, right? Kasi, and uh, what is really important. Ganun. May nabasa ko. So Genesis is really good. It talks uh, about Gewalt, universal, sorry, Gewalt, they also talk about, how they call it, the tinatawag nilang gemut. That's the gemut is very important that we should understand also. Kasi we're understanding the psyche in a physical and immaterial consciousness, right? But we should also understand what gemut is, kasi that's what we are really aiming for as a human being. Kasi if we are aligned on the gemut part, and then we really don't, the positive negative doesn't really matter, because the important thing is the equalize, for me, acquiring equalizedness of our consciousness. Ganon. Kasi we need to develop that. And you can only have that equalizedness if we really understand or feel yung other side of the consciousness, right? Because we had physical or material, and we had that tinatawag nating fine energetical, or in quote unquote spiritual consciousness, right? Because that's the old term they use, it, spiritual consciousness. But of course, you change it to creation energy consciousness, or energetical perception, or consciousness, ganun. So we need to understand those, and we can only attain those if we really had that experience through meditation, concentration, and through align to nature, ganun. Right? So that's a very important thing. And I learned a new word in German, which is Enforcempfindung. I don't know if you heard about that, but in the English translation, it's called the fine creation, energetical perception of honor, deference, venerability, and veneration. That's very long English word, but it's to attain that acquiring equalizedness of the consciousness for the development of the inner calm and the inner life, it is necessary to point out with all clarity and above all things the enforcem fendo. Because only when the difference, honor, veneration, and difference, venerability for all and everything is present in the human being, can also the equalizedness of the consciousness be found. Ganun. Well, anyway, that's what I'm trying to share out now. Na we should aim for everything equalized. We need to equalize whatever it is, positive or negative. We need to train our consciousness to equalize those, right? Just like the boomerang effect. If you're not really uh skilled to catch that boomerang, and you don't know how to equalize that, it might hurt you or break you, right? But if you learn how to equalize those boomerang effect, either positive and negative, and that will benefit you. Yeah. So you also need to train your consciousness for that. Because everything positive and negative has an effect to you, either positive or hardly positive, negative or negative. But if you learn how to equalize and hold it, and it's easier for us to hold and hold that boomerang, right? And the challenge for us is to how to equalize. And it's a lot of things to how to equalize. That's why I learned that word Enforcempfindung which is the honor, difference, vulnerability, and veneration. Because we need to get that creation energetic perception or that perception of equalizedness. Ganon. And we can only achieve that if we're also doing meditation. Yeah. If anyway, any questions or sharings? I'm done for now.
I will add a little in that.
Yeah.
Yeah, about the equalization. So another example would be, if it is clear to you, will be the night and day. Like there are different polarities. Like we are used to believe in religious aspects that at nighttime, evil creatures will creep out, and at daytime, it will be all good. But in a retrospective view or scientific view, night and day, they exist as unison. Because if either one only exists, if only night will exist, the planet will survive. Won't survive. If only they would exist, also the planet will not survive. So there's a rhythm of night and day that are co-equal, or they are equally in unison to each other. So there's a day for work, for the plants to photosynthesize everything and animals to move around, and the night, and the night time, the plants and animals need to rest, or the plants needs carbon, what you call this one. It's different from photosynthesis, but at night time, the plants are doing this carbon, oxygen thing. They recycle it. They convert carbon to oxygen. So it's the same with our thoughts. It should be unison in the polarities, the negative and the positive, because either one is overbearing, it will lead to Gerwalt or also Tangin. So this notion that the other one is good and the other one is evil is just made up by the religious sect. And again, as what Ren said, we can enhance this equalization through concentration meditation. Like for example, if I think we discussed this few years back. Let's say we see a bat. If we if we follow our mythologies, our beliefs, usually we say the bat are from the creatures of the demons because they have sharp edges, their teeth are very sharp, and the eyes are very
They
frightening, like that. So they are mostly from the demonic side. But if you will use the pure observation concentration, or try to meditate the why it is like this, it is created like that. It has a purpose. It has a reason why it is made like that way. So it needs to maybe hunt something. It has these big ears for echolocation, and our eyes maybe are built for some color detection because it thrives at nighttime and nocturnal animals. So it doesn't fall to any demonic or something evil that is in the evil side. It's just created by the religion. So if we're gonna apply neutral positive thinking plus this observation, concentration, meditation, we can see clearly what is all around us. And from there, we can also practice our neutral, positive, equalized thinking, and we will not be biased on seeing things around us. That's it. Thank you.
Okay, so umabot na tayo sa kasukdulan ng ating oras. But
Is
anyhow,
it time
Cynthia,
already?
Yeah.
what page did you stop?
Okay.
We should
We
continue. I
yeah,
joke.
you wanna continue? Wait a minute. We we're gonna start
We're
at
in 134.
I thought we're at 136.
Yeah,
Oh, 36,
136.
yeah. Yeah.
Everybody, mabuhay.
All right.
Mhm.
Good. Are you guys? Yeah. See ya.
Six.
Okay.
Okay.
Take care. And then
Okay,
I
salam
think it's
guys.
hey, it's peace
Okay.
meditation weekend, eh?
Salome, salamat po.
Yes,
Peace
Thank
the
you.
meditation
Bye-bye.
weekend, okay?
global peace meditation. Yes.
Yeah, let's do that for
Uh-oh.
ourselves and for the planet. Okay. Salome. Bye bye.
Salome,
Bye.
bye-bye.
Thank you.
Uh-huh.